So this upcoming video is, in my view, quite spicy. We're going to be reacting to some stats, some comments, and some on-the-ground footage of what life is like in China. So let's start with monthly income. So the average is too busy to find stock ideas. Check out FIRL Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description. The low average is 4,300, and this is for a specific city.
Yes, correct. So you can see it's all it's around here lah. So here, is it Chengqing? Oh, no, sorry, Harbin,
Okay.
Harbin, and then also the highest one is basically Shanghai.
So the numbers you're seeing on the left are RMB, so we converted, right? So
Yeah,
it's about 4,003, and then the high is about 8,000. But as always, because of skew, people use median more, for those of you all who remember your statistics class. So yeah, median is a bit lower at 3,005, and then the higher end is 6,005. So for reference, that means places like Harbin, which is the north east, I believe, of China. It's a very cold place. It's a very nice ice castle there, one of the coolest places in China, I feel. I've not been there, but it looks really cool. 3,005, right, median. And then the highest is 6,500 in Shanghai.
Yeah, it doesn't sound a lot. I mean, if you compare to like our country, but also probably because they are a communist country, that's why the pay is more heavily skewed towards the low end, and then whereas ours is more of a democratic country. So there's like some sort of like capitalism lah. I mean,
yeah. So I think another thing that catches my eye is that the Shanghai, the most expensive city, the number one city, has an income that is less than double the number 30 something.
Yes.
But you already know intuitively that the cost for Shanghai is probably more than double where Harbin is.
Yep, exactly. So I think people who are living in China or Shanghai, right, I think they are also pretty resourceful. They know areas where they can live that they don't need to spend a lot.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I'm pretty sure they can take advantage of it. So this is one of the stats. And then the second one, which is quite shocking, you can compare between China and also our country, where we stand. So basically, T1 is people who make more than 11,000 a month. And if you look at the population, right, it's only 0.05% in China, and then it's 23.1% in Malaysia. Now, these stats, obviously, it's not the latest, but I want to compare between apple to apple. So this one is in 2021. This figure also is around 2021, 2022. So it's quite close. And then for B2, or the B40, who makes less than 3K a month, you can see the stats is quite shocking. It's like 95% of people in China in making this level. And then it's only 14.6% in Malaysia. So yeah, this is also quite a crazy stats that you can...
I mean, just to explain it a different way, in Malaysia, your chances of earning 11,000 a month and above, this is household income?
Yes, household income.
Household income.
Yeah.
Is 1 in about 4 or 1 in 4.5. But in China, that number is 1 in, my math is not so good, 1 in 200, I want to say. There's a big gap, right?
Yeah, and also the fact that, I mean, those who are making less than 3,000, right, it's only quite small amount in Malaysia. When I thought it was like going to be quite a big amount. But then when I'm comparing with China, it's like almost everyone in
To be fair, I think that 11K is how China is household also, or individual.
Both also is household.
Both household. Okay.
Yeah. So
because you gotta divide by 2 usually.
Yeah.
To get per capita.
Yep, correct. But anyhow, this is basically on the ground. One of the stats that is shared by Cynthia Lin. You can check out her videos over here on the how much China actually makes. I believe the start of the video, she showed like, is China rich, right? He was searching, and then the Google says that yes, China is very rich, but that is only for like certain cities only. Then she also break down further into what is the reality of how much they make.
The context is, again, if my math is right, 0.05% of 1.4 billion people. That is 7 million. Did I get it right? 7 or 70 million?
Actually, it's like 700,000 or something like that.
So 700,000. That my math. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So
so but in Malaysia, 1 quarter is already what? We have 33, 34 million, right? So it's about 8 million. Correct.
One quarter.
8 million?
Yeah,
Let's say 6 to 7,
six to seven, yeah, around there. But yeah, so that is basically the income. But we're also going to be reacting to a few videos over here that we have for you. And here is one of the video which is related to the obviously the real average income in China. But specifically, we want to look at the fresh grads
Yeah,
and also
let's
the
take a look.
working reality in China.
China are surprisingly optimistic about their future income. Many young adults in their early 20s are expecting their annual salary to go beyond 1 million Chinese yuan 10 years after they get into the workforce.
Yeah, so
1 million
1
Chinese
million
yuan is 700,000 ringgit
a
year.
Yeah,
after 10 years.
after 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is their expectation.
The truth is, according to the China Graduate Employment and Salary Report by Michael Beige back in 2020, only 4.3% of the Chinese graduate with a bachelor degree in China.
So you can see, it's only a small amount. I mean, obviously majority didn't manage to
this
make.
is about 6,500 ringgit, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Earn over 10,000 Chinese yuan per month, while 68% earn 6,000 Chinese yuan or less. This means
it's
that
still
even though that
3K.
we are seeing so many people over the internet that they are making more than 1 million Chinese yuan per year, but in reality, after 3 years of working, most bachelor graduates won't make more than 10,000 Chinese yuan per month. The average monthly income for bachelor degree holders in China 3 years after graduation is around 8,200 Chinese yuan. I guess that's why there are many young adults being very anxious or burnout after 3 years of working, because there's a huge gap between their overly optimistic expectation and the actual disposable income they receive.
Okay, so you just pause. So you're saying that most graduates think that they can have a 700,000 ringgit per annum income within 10 years. So let's say they graduate at, let's say 24,
yeah.
let's say lah. So by, let's say mid-30s, they're expecting to earn 700,000 a year.
Yeah.
But the reality is that only 4.3% of graduates earn
Like 6-7K a month.
6-7K a month.
Yeah. And then majority still make like 3K, maybe less than that. Yeah.
All right, let's continue.
Top the industry that has the average highest income in China are IT surveys, scientific research, and finance. But very interestingly, the most wanted job by college students are actually not in these 3 areas.
Oh.
There was a recent survey on over 10,000 university graduates about their dream job. Over 60% of them say that they want to become an influencer or KOL, as it seems to be a get-rich-quick occupation. It is clear that there's a huge income gap in China.
Yeah, just pause. So we have to remember, right? Even though it's 0.05% that are rich in China, there's still a big chunk, right? The millions of people in China that have good, income and good salary, and so because of the internet and how widespread it is, when they show off their watches and cars and all that, it affects billion of people, or at least a few hundred million people.
Yeah.
So
that's why there's a move, which is to get rich quick, right? I mean, a lot of people, or at least the young Chinese adults, those Gen Zs, right? They opt for influencers, live streaming, or even some maybe not so good job to make.
Yeah, so like now to survive, right? If you don't want a traditional path, from my understanding, is if you're a guy, you do Meituan, which is like ride hailing, and if you are a lady, you will go streaming.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in streaming, ladies have an advantage, right?
Yes. Yep. Somewhat of an advantage.
Most people's wages falling in the middle to lower range. And the high earners that we see on social media are the tiny percentage of the population that are on top of the pyramid, and that do not represent the majority of the population. That's why many young people should not compare themselves to those ones on social media and causing ourselves unnecessary anxiety. No matter which income category we Chinese fall into, everyone works hard to trade in our time and effort for survival or comfortable living for ourselves and our family. Each individual is bringing value to the society. Thus, all hard work should be treated with the same respect. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and I will see you next time.
Yep. So this is basically the income side of things for China. The next video.
What I'm worried actually is not necessarily the low income. I think you can say Malaysia faces something similar as well. 80% nearly 80% are not earning the 11K. I think our median income is 3K or whatever it is.
Yeah, correct. This side is actually just to debunk people outside who think that China is very rich.
But what I'm worried is not that they are not rich, is that the expectation gap.
Yes.
I think because China is also one of the most educated population. Every year they have almost 10 million graduates. I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so the expectations are rising, and when the reality is so different, especially now with trade war and all that, I think it's tough.
Yeah, correct. I think also there's a reason why we are seeing a lot of like Tangping, Bai Lan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, a lot of pro-China people say that the Chinese can eat grass, okay, or eat tree bark,
Yeah.
So okay.
So this is
Good
the
luck.
video about income. The next one we're gonna be reacting to a Shein. So there's two Shein video. Number one, it is by BFM. So this one is more towards the one of the corporate side of like workers in the interview, and then the other one is more on the ground. So we're gonna be looking at the corporate
So let's
side
see
of things
both.
first.
Both. So for context is, people always accuse Shein of and I think Temu as well, right?
Yeah.
And to throw in another name of exploiting workers. That's why the products can be so cheap. And honestly, it's really cheap, right? If you go on Temu. So here is one of their representatives trying to defend the company.
Yeah. So let's have a look.
In the realm of social responsibility, what initiatives would you say that Shein are undertaking to ensure fair labour practices and worker welfare within your supply chain? This is obviously something I'm referring to something we have seen this a few times, whether or not it's a documentary or things on YouTube. It's something that has been questioned regularly. Can you answer that?
Yeah, of course. And thanks for this question, because I do think this is an area where there are many misperceptions about Shein. And in particular, because of our low price points, some have used this to accuse Shein of exploitative practices in the supply chain. However, as I've explained before, because our business model is an extremely efficient one with the on-demand production model that minimizes excess inventory loss, and our asset-light e-commerce model also brings our cost to a very efficient model. And this allows us to price our products at very low margins compared to traditional retailers, and in fact pass the cost savings on to our customers. And on the supply chain side of things, I think Shein's success as a global e-commerce company would not have been possible without the close partnerships of our suppliers. So one thing to know about the suppliers that work with Shein, we actually have quite a democratic approach. We work with a lot of small, medium enterprises that are not used to working with international clothing brands or large retailers, but Shein works with them to digitalize their operations and processes, train them in how to use our digital platform, transform their production processes.
Sorry. Is she reading off something? Can we pay attention to her eyes? Sorry, it took so long for me to realize this, but it seems like she's reading off a script.
Yeah, pretty sure she's looking at something, and then she's using
Maybe
whatever
she's
that she's
using,
in the script, and then she just says.
Yeah, maybe she's using like ChatGPT.
To be more efficient and digital, as well as enhance quality control of their products to meet the standards and expectations of international companies. Yeah, so this actually also includes a robust governance framework by which we would educate our customers about how to govern their supply chain and working conditions in a way that is aligned with international standards. And here we actually have a two-pronged approach that is based on enforcement on one hand and empowerment on the other. So it's a carrot and stick approach to balance things.
Right. But there were alleged instances of workers in particular factories who were working extremely long hours for very small amounts of pay. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, so first I would say, looking at what we do on the enforcement side of things, we actually have a very robust policy framework that's anchored on key documents informed by ILO standards and the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And for suppliers to work with Shein, require them to agree to abide by our governance standards.
They have to sign up.
Yep. Exactly. And these include the prohibition of unethical labor practices, such as forced or child labor, bribery or corruption, employee discrimination, and harassment, as well as other labor rights issues that you've mentioned.
And for those that have been caught doing this practice, are they removed from your kind of network?
Yeah, certainly. We enforce compliance through our regular audits. So every supplier that works with us, in fact, undergoes an audit assessment before they're approved to work with Shein. And there's a full on-site audit that's conducted by a third-party auditor during the course of their work with Shein. So auditors would check things like, fire safety issues, whether their workers are in conditions with suitable ventilation. They also check documents like workers' pay slips to ensure that workers are paid on time and in accordance with local wage requirements. So just on this pay issue, we actually did a study of pay conditions in our workers' factories, and we found that based on local averages, our workers are actually earning a lot more than what is the local average across the industry.
Okay, so here she pointed out two things. Number one, it is the workers' conditions.
Okay, that's good.
Up
She
to
can hire a third-party auditor to check the
to check.
condition.
Yeah. So you need to remember this.
Okay.
Industry, kind of like cleanliness or whatsoever hygiene. Then the second point she mentioned is the paying more than average. All right. Than the industry benchmark. So I want you guys to remember these two things, okay? So one is cleanliness, related to cleanliness. The other one is related to how much they make.
Okay.
Next question, and let's talk a little bit about governance structures and what are in place, or rather, can you discuss with me what governance structures are in place to ensure ethical business practices and compliance with international standards? Can we break it down a little bit further, please?
Yeah.
Don't tell me that when she said I was happy to share more. Don't tell me that was in the script as well.
These are our supplier code of conduct, the supplier responsibility standards, and the Shein responsible sourcing policy. So based on these policies, they include a full checklist of up to 141 lists that auditors in fact check for when they audit our suppliers. And of course, this framework also comes with a penalty framework when that happens. So for instance, depending on the severity of the of the violation or based on the supplier, we actually take actions that are as severe as termination of the business relationship with the supplier if the situation calls for it. And we have in fact terminated suppliers in the past year for not performing up to our expectations and governance standards. And in fact, one thing to also know about what we support our suppliers with, for instance, after every audit, we also share a report that comes with a corrective action plan with them, and that includes very detailed breakdown of how they can remediate violative practices to be compliant and to meet our standards and expectations.
Because I can imagine, if you're a factory owner and you suddenly get an order from Shein, for them it's it's like winning the lottery almost for a period, and it worries me that some of these guidelines could kind of not be frowned upon, but not necessarily adhered to so much, because it's like, okay, we've got this quick audit, let's just get it out, let's just do it. Has that become a problem in the past, and which has now been addressed?
Yeah, so I think the suppliers that work with us do understand that a partnership with Shein is for the long term.
Right.
And, this is where we have a supplier community empowerment program. So that's the empowerment part, the carrot that backs the stick that we were talking about earlier. And as part of this program, we actually have allocated substantive amount of funds, US 17 million, to provide funds to our suppliers. This includes things like conducting of training, but it also includes other areas like funds for them to upgrade facilities like canteens, dormitories, and childcare spaces, as well as financial aid to workers who are facing financial difficulties.
Okay.
Yeah. So they also have a portion of fund to upgrade or clean the
17
factory.
million US
17
dollars,
million
right?
US
Yeah.
dollar.
Okay.
But there's a lot of factories, so I don't know how is it going to be allocated. It's going to be very stretched across every single places.
Yeah,
and also, they also say that they want to repay some of the employees who is facing difficulties.
Okay.
So you want to take note of
So
that.
just for a sense of a comparison, just last year alone, we modernized more than 160 supplier facilities, and we've built 10 childcare centers at the factories of our suppliers, and we've also disbursed more than 460,000 in financial support over the 2 years since our financial grant program was launched.
When you're helping these suppliers out, these manufacturers, with these grants and helping them with their childcare facilities and whatnot, does that mean then that they can only work exclusively for Shein for a period of time?
Well, we actually have a policy that does not have any exclusivity conditions tied to it. However, some of the grants and incentives available to suppliers are based on their performance in our audits. So this is in fact an incentive for for suppliers to improve their performance and to pay more attention to the governance side of things.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that is basically the rough
Yeah, you
idea.
can watch the whole thing on BFM.
Yeah. So now we're going to be looking at the on the ground on what is really happening.
Yeah.
And this is by a Chinese journalist. I would say journalist, she doesn't call herself a journalist. But yeah, let's take a look.
In supply chain that has never been shown on YouTube.
I am at a village where local people call Shein Village because here are where hundreds of Shein's manufacturers are located. Today, my brother and I are going to go inside this village and hopefully to capture some footage of Shein's extensive supply chain.
Back in 2022, Shein was questioned about its labor violation in its supply chain here in China. Shein then pledged 15 million over 3 to 4 years to upgrade its supply chain, aimed to ensure ethical practice and improve the welfare of workers. Despite these efforts, Shein continues to be questioned over labor practices, including concerns about forced labor and working conditions within its extensive supply chain. About 2 years has passed. Let's see how Shein is doing with its commitment.
Oh, okay.
This village is called Nancun, located in Panyu District, Guangzhou, a city in southern China and home to Shein's headquarters. It has been reported that there are more than 500 large and small manufacturers in the village working for Shein.
I do not work for Shein and I'm not a journalist. I'm just a YouTuber who happen to live around this area. And I'm curious to see if labor violations still exist, and if so, why it's still a problem that has not been solved.
These 500 manufacturers form a highly responsive supply chain that meets all of Shein's need for its on-demand small batch production model. From design and fabric sourcing through production and packaging, the entire process can take as little as a few hours. Shein has been widely criticized for poor working conditions, excessive hours, and low wages. Today, I want to explore this issue further. Walking through the village, we could see lots of hiring information. I spotted a job board packed with openings in garment production, with people regularly scanning it for full-time or contract roles. We met a worker in the industry who shared insights about the pay rates for some of the hiring position.
Yeah, pay attention to this one.
他是这样子的，而且计件的他把工资都写得很高，但是包月的他敢不敢写这么高的？包月的他就不敢写这么高了。
他计件的话，他是多少钱一件？
这个不一定的，计件的要看衣服那个。
看衣服。
嗯。
他有那个底薪吗？
没有。
都没有底薪啊？
像那个你看纸匠、车板，还有一个杂工，这些都是包月的。还有1万到1万3，基本上可能就是1万，7000到8500的话，我估计就是7000。我们在外面租这个的话，基本上都差不多就有1万2、3的包月的。
那个纸浆有1万2、3。
So there's always like some sort of 10-20% discount from the reported.
Yeah, so when they say this job role, you can make like 13,000 to 20,000. You won't make 20,000. You probably make 13,000 or maybe less than that.
So I can't read the full Mandarin. I think they may be saying up to rather than this is what you're gonna...
Between. They say between this number and this number. But it's always at the lower number.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is
这个才写个1万到1
how
万
they
3，
promote
然后你看他评测写的那么高，你看这个写的就。
And also just now he mentioned 没有底薪means there's no base salary. It's all based on commission. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
不靠谱啊。
Just based on what he
Yeah.
has
Just
experienced.
now he just mentioned over here 没有底薪.
Based on what he has experienced, the actual pay rates might be low.
你看这个写的就不靠谱啊。
These high wages are purely piece rate with no base
Just
salary.
based on what he has experienced, the actual pay rates might be lower than stated.
都有8500左右，大概7000到8500。
So yeah, just like you recall, just now what they say that they are paying above industry practices. Yeah, so on the ground, it's
Documented the
completely
working
different.
environments, which range from large factories to small family-run workshops. To be honest, these conditions may not seem pleasant, but they represent the industry standard for garment manufacturing in China.
Yeah, so this is the sad thing lah. They comply with the practice, but then
Bare
as
minimum.
people who bare minimum, yeah.
To better understand suppliers and worker compensation structures, I interviewed a factory owner in Dongguan, China, a personal connection who had previously been approached by Shein.
哇，你點得似咁樣咯？
所以你们也没有做Shein，
没有做，
他们也没有找你做。
有朋友介绍，但是我没做。但是那个叫做Shein的话，它快法，它单量大，还要那个其实利润很少，因为我只有3到5块的利润。如果是我自己做的，像我们这种做3到5块就亏死了。
懂。
就它的价格就是在不到5块钱利润，就是它所有的东西都打到底了，就是给工人多少。
就是他给工人的单价。
Including slashing workers per item pay to subs. Yeah, so basically they are operating at such a low cost that they are to the fact that they can actually like slash workers' pay. Yeah.
Pay to subsistence level, meaning the bare minimum for them to survive lah.
Yeah,
for
correct.
workers, okay.
Yeah.
这也是很低。
对他给工人的单价基本上是后整，就是比如说给工人多少钱就多少钱，就基本上没有太多多余的那种，所以没什么利润空间。
了解。
If it's my impression that Shein
Hey, but the
pushes
trains
for
are
the
nice
lowest
though.
possible prices during negotiation to maintain its competitive edge, because competition in the Chinese market is harsh, suppliers have little choice but to do what Shein requested to stay in business.
I am at the village again today, and I want to pretend to be someone who is looking for a job and see if I can talk to anyone who actually work in the industry to get some first-hand information of how they feel about working in Shein.
By the way, can I just say like how even though she's not a journalist, how journalistic she is.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Like she really covers all bases from multiple parts, except Shein, of course, right?
Yeah.
Workers to factory owner to now trying to look for a job. So she's putting herself in
Into
their
the positions.
shoes.
Yeah, correct.
Supply chain.
But just to know that, like any other industry, wages in the garment manufacturing industry are based on different roles and skills required to perform the task.
So just now I say how much is their commission, right? Is 0.05 USD per piece.
So that is 35
0.4.
35 cents RMB.
Yeah, 35 cents RMB.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like a few cents only. Yeah. So they actually have to make like 500 pieces a day.
KPI, yeah.
Yeah.
To hit the right.
And also to make like some sort of like a decent money. So if you calculate all of these, right, their hourly wage is around like 5 ringgit to 6 ringgit.
我想问一下，这边工作真的是有1万多工资这么高吗？
晚上睡觉那个整个店高一点。
Yeah, so you say that can you make above 10K? Nah, you must be daydreaming.
什么？一般5、6千，不是说都有1万多吗？
那你是什么工种的
？OK，要不要加班啊？这边就说有1万多，我们去上来看看。
有是有，
但要加班是不是？
可能要干10几个小时的。
10几个小时才有1万。
12 hours a day.
主管有吧
？8、9
千。我刚看外面招聘写16000哎。
10个小时，很少的1万多的。
Oh, sorry for the ads. Vincent, please skip this part.
300-400是日结吗？
长工，
长工，但也是计件是吧？有没有底薪啊？
哪有什么底薪啊？
我刚
妈的交通
Yeah,
费
just a lot of people are asking for base salary, but
Yeah.
they don't get
没有
paid base
加班费都
salary.
没有啊？
没有，
他不计件吗？
是这样没交通费啊，
几件怎么会有加班费？
对啊，就是
你
就是就是你做多少件多少件
不，是自愿，有的时候也是强迫。不
Sometimes they are forced to work also. Sometimes they are forced to work overtime. Sometimes they are voluntary. Yeah.
加一点加要错。
都为什么要抢哦？要赶出那出单。
This worker shared that his shift runs from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., with breaks for lunch and dinner. These hours seem typical in the Shein village. After a quick dinner, my friend and I returned to FIRL Mall. Many manufacturers, both large and small, were still operating at the time.
Yeah. Basically, they don't rest, man.
As I film this video, I feel very conflicted. Based on Shein's website, workers in the supply chain, on average, earn more than the average wage in private sector. But Shein does not disclose how these samples are collected without knowing how many hours they work. It is hard to tell if these numbers are competitive. Based on my conversations with people in the industry, observations of job openings, and visit at the clothing manufacturing market in the city, I would say pay rates in Shein's extensive supply chain is roughly the industry. In order to earn the above average income, you would need to take extra shifts and sometimes under high pressure conditions I have seen Shein's worker describe on Chinese social media.
Many quit within weeks.
Behind
Wow.
this phenomenon lies
20 to
Shein's
30,000
committed demand
steps per day. So if you're overweight,
Yeah, this
join
is
a
good.
Shein factory, you know.
of its rapid product turnover and tight deadlines, leading the company to turn a blind eye to these labor practice. China's massive population provides a continuous supply of low-cost labor for labor-intensive industry, something Shein has capitalized on. Of course, we hope that every factory worker can work in better conditions, receive fair wages, and have reasonable working hours. However, in the fierce competition of the market, they may not have better alternatives. The consumer demand for low-cost fast fashion, Shein's need for an agile supply chain, and local government's pursuit of economic growth together create an environment in which this phenomenon persists. I feel conflicted. I see the shadow of exploitation. But this might not just be a Shein issue. This might also be the hidden shadow behind the success of China's manufacturing boom.
Yeah. So that is basically it for the reaction video for Shein. And then there's also more insight about Shein that we're going to be sharing over here. So there's this one worker that was interviewed by, I think, Business Human, right? So they say that there's no such thing as Sunday in working in China. If there is 31 days in a month, you work for 31 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And then usually they will say that, you know, the hourly that they work, minimum is actually, I think it was like 12 hours, 12, 14 hours around there. That's the minimum. And then you can see that this is basically how much they make. Workers get, so over here they say base salary, but technically it's actually like commission, 4,000 yuan per month to make at least 500 pieces of clothing per day. And then their first month pay is withheld from them. So the workers are not getting paid. Yeah, there were some instances, not every single. Yeah, so here he says it's like 14 cents yuan a piece or 2 cents per item. And then basically the people who are working there is actually just purely for survival.
And some of these people, like, they're like 49. They're
Yeah,
almost
49.
50.
Yes. And then they work on Sundays also, usually lah. But they say that on Sundays they work 3 hours or less, so that's good. Yeah, and the
No
reason
wonder
why
a
they
lot
work,
of them want to come to Malaysia. Man. It's
yeah.
paradise here.
Yeah, correct.
And they can earn more.
Yes, they earn more, and then basically it's very slow.
And we have
They like it very
Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's a Chinese Muslim, you get Fridays, half day. Wow.
Yeah, man. So yeah, things are just basically on the ground. It's not so pleasant to see it. So this is our final thoughts. Why there's this term called nature and it's happening in China,
It's just
right?
this big competition internally. Name means internal, trend means spiral, right?
Yes, correct.
So it's like the law of competition inside, and that's why you see this kind of break.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's basically like
level.
the harder you work, you don't get compensated the same
Yep.
amount of effort that you put in. So that's why they are kind of like rebelling
So you
against
see
this one.
the ROI is dropping.
Yeah. And then the second one is obviously there's a lie flat and let it rot culture, which is Tang Ping, and also Bai Lan. Bai Lan is let it rot. Tang Ping is lie flat. So they are basically giving up on working hard in China, which is also something that Xi Jinping and CCP
And
are
you
quite
know
afraid
it's a
of.
problem because if I'm not mistaken, some of these lie flat stuff are being censored, right?
Yes, correct. They are being censored. So if you imagine, because usually this kind of movement is done by the I would say is
The
Gen
younger
Z, the
ones,
younger
yeah.
one. So right now, majority of the population is actually the millennials and also the Gen X, right?
Yeah.
So in the future, I think it'll be quite tough for China. That's why they're also quite careful about this, and hopefully there will be some sort of changes in their practices. And then the next one is those who are working hard in the white collar, now they choose to work in the blue collar. They want to become barista, they want to become waiter, because it's more chill actually compared to corporate, more or less stressful. So yeah, this one is more towards for young people in China that they prefer these kind of things. They are starting to give up on high paying jobs already. Now, last but not least is just now we watched a video on majority of them want to be an influencer or KOL, because if you look at the data over here, the market size for China influencer economy is actually growing at double digits. This is up 9.4%, but it's quite a high teens already. So there's a demand for these kind of bloggers to promote. So it's no surprise that all of them, they don't want to work hard on things that they cannot make a decent living. So instead, they'll go for an alternative route or more entrepreneurial route, which is to become a live streamer. I think this is also the same case for Malaysians also. For some, they want to become a TikToker or
It is a global trend, just that in China, because it's so big, right? So everything's bigger.
Yep. So that's about it for today's video. I hope you guys learned something a little bit about China. Please don't ban us. What we're doing is just we're reacting to other people's video. That's about it. But before you guys go, this is our FIRL Pro's performance for April 2025. May 2025 is going to be better because there's a rebound in the market. So I think the number you see here is going to be around 39 to 40% each for FIRL Pro Malaysia. And if you want to know what is the FIRL Pro, it's basically where we share our best ideas. We do it into a written form, a few write-ups, we do 2 write-ups a month. And you can read it in less than 15 minutes to know about the company. And then if let's say we do own this company, we'll disclose it inside the write-up. And when we do sell it, we also will announce it to you guys. So if you want to know, what we are buying right now, what we are eyeing on, you can check it out inside FIRL Pro. And these are some of the lists that we have over here. And if you are a dividend investor, you can want to check out the boring portfolio, which is now yielding at 6.76%, which is higher than EPF's 6.3%. And hopefully this number is growing. And if you want to get a taste, you want to see how I do our write-ups, is inside the free sample. The links will be in the description and comments. And also just want to give a small little tiny example. This is one of the report that we did. And we also share inside this free sample is Delium. So we bought it over here and we sold it over here. So if you want to know our tactics, how we do it, make sure to check out the free sample and also FIRL Pro. And with that said, see you guys next week.